or its advertisers.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public, the wonderful people here in Nevis, those in St. Kitts, those in the wider Caribbean. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States and Canada, in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. Good evening, Jackie. I'm told that you slept earlier so you could be up tonight in the UK listening. Good evening to you. And I saw the sugar cakes and they look great. Good evening to my dear friend Mems, if you're listening. Good evening to you. Good evening to my friend Ursula in Atlanta, if she's listening. Good evening to her. I always say she's in Atlanta. She's in Villa Rica in Georgia, not in Atlanta. So good evening to you. Good evening to one and all. The whole church ground posse up there. Good evening to Dolores and the crew. Good evening to the whole of Bath Village. I know I was supposed to be at a meeting there this evening. I want to publicly apologize. I got my signals crossed. I take full responsibility, but I'll make it up to you. And good evening, therefore, to one and all. For those of you who might be hospitalized, good evening to you. I know that some of you are listening. I want to send, of course, my very best to my dear friend Hilly, my friend Christine Drew. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening to all of you who might be a little under the weather, not feeling so well. I would want you to know that you're in my prayers, and I pray and hope that you feel much better. Good evening to everyone. I'm happy to be here. It's a beautiful night in Nevis tonight. Warm, yes, it's been a bit warm, and we still have some of the Sahara dust that is lingering, but we are happy to be alive and grateful to God for His abundant mercies. We are still under COVID-19 restrictions and under COVID-19 watch, but things are getting easier. We're easing day by day, and I think that the next big move, obviously, would be to set a date. I'm told it will be in September for the reopening of schools. I'm told that daycare centers have been authorized for some level of reopening. That's good news for people with children who are in daycare, need daycare, so they can be out fully working. As you know, a compassionate government that we have tried to be here in Nevis, our workers who are parents have been given opportunity to stay at home on a case-by-case basis with their children. Some have done so, and we are grateful that we are coming to an end of that, so that all offices will resume in the usual course. So as we look forward to these developments as the country reopens, the next big step, of course, will be opening the borders. I know that's a big step that many are afraid of, but it is an important step, and eventually we'll have to confront that reality. So we have to get prepared, have to be sure that we have testing capacity and capability on both St. Kitts and Nevis, and that, of course, we have the best training and protocols in place for our hotel workers, our frontline immigration, customs, baggage handlers, taximen, etc., so that we can try our best to get our economy going again, and at the same time try to avoid the pitfalls, as we've seen, for example, in some neighbors like Antigua, where they've had some difficulties. So we are hoping to learn from the mistakes that perhaps have been made elsewhere, get the best practices that we've seen elsewhere. We've had some good reviews, for example, from Jamaica, and we will have to continue in that vein. So while the restrictions remain, we are grateful for life. We're grateful that God has spared us the worst of COVID. We had 15 cases throughout the Federation, only 4 on Nevis, and since 7th of April, we have not had any new case on Nevis. So, all things being equal, by the 7th of July, which is almost here, it would mean that we would have gone May, June, July, 3 full months without any new cases, and for that we are truly grateful. All 15 have recovered, none required hospitalization, and so St. Kitts Nevis truly now can say that it is COVID-free. I have, however, been clear in my own public utterances that based on all the science and all the reports that we have seen, COVID is likely to be here with us for the foreseeable future. And that being the case, I think it would be reckless for us to assume that we will continue to be COVID-free. We cannot shut ourselves off from the world for the foreseeable future. If that were the case, then we perhaps would remain COVID-free, but we would also have no economy left. And so we have to strike a balance, and I have always said that the balance must err on the side of the safety and security and health of our people, but a balance has to be struck, because we cannot cloister ourselves and remain aloof and separated from the world for the rest of our lives. And so at some point we have to re-engage, and we have to re-engage sooner rather than later, lest the thousands of people who are already jobless and already suffering are to suffer more. And some of the hotels that we have were to simply say, listen, we cannot sustain this plant for months and months and months on end while it's closed, and therefore we will have to pull up and move elsewhere. These are very legitimate concerns. I raised in my conversation last week the possibility that, again, airlines may not have any equipment to service us if, again, we delay indefinitely. And so these are delicate decisions. I'm happy that thus far we have had very sensible and sober leadership on this matter, and that we've been guided, certainly on St. Kitts, by the sage advice of the CMO, Dr. Laws, and by people like Abdius Samuel and others who have done an excellent job. Prime Minister has heeded advice and has conducted himself admirably. The entire team has done well on Nevis. We've had equally competent and sage advice from Dr. Judy Nisbet and the entire team on Nevis, Brian Dyer and the whole crew there at the EOC and the COVID-19 task force. And I too, as Premier of Nevis, have heeded the advice that they have given. They have not led me wrong yet, and I'm grateful that through their advice we have been able to weather this storm thus far, and through the grace of God we have had no loss of life and no added pressure put on our systems here, our health systems. I should say that we've had some students that have come home from the United States. I would want to thank those who organized their flight to get them here. We've also latterly had some students who have come home from Cuba. I would want to thank the government of Venezuela. It was a joint effort with Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and the government of Venezuela provided a flight. I'm told some 26 or thereabout students came, of which I think 6 are in Nevis or from Nevis, and they have been duly quarantined here on the island of Nevis, and we are grateful that they're here. We're hoping that they will go through a successful quarantine and shortly be available to join their families in their homes. We understand the difficulty, we understand the hardship. We have not sought to make light of it. We recognize that even as I speak to you tonight, there's still some of our people trapped in foreign lands who perhaps went to take a small holiday and are now stuck and have been stuck for months. It's one thing going away and said you're gone for 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks turns into 3 and 4 months. It means therefore that the money you might have had to last 2 weeks, you don't have that anymore. You're under pressure as well. So we understand. And then when you're coming home, there's no clear way, no clear path. Many are being forced to charter or to organize with others to charter to get in. So we understand the hardship that is being felt all around. And regrettably, that is what happens when you have a pandemic such as this, which can cause untold damage to us as a people, which potentially could wipe out the population of St. Kitts and Nevis. When we look at the statistics coming out of the United States, where over 100,000 people have lost their lives, we recognize that we don't even have 100,000 people here. That 1/3 of that, and our entire population will be decimated here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So that is how serious COVID is. It is quite clear that despite the earlier signs that it only was fatal or was mostly attacking those most susceptible, the aged, those with underlying medical conditions like high blood pressure, organ failure, whatever the case may be, that the truth is now that the statistics are showing that young, vibrant people are also coming down with COVID, and in cases can also be susceptible, it can also be fatal. So we have to be mindful and we have to remain vigilant. I recognize that in some settings a lot of people are not observing the protocols, and I too, I confess, have on occasions gone have a drink and you're not wearing the mask, as the case may be, because we are by our nature social beings. But I would again encourage our people to try to do the very best that they can to continue the protocols. The science is suggesting that when you wear a mask and when everybody's masked, that helps to restrict the spread of COVID. And so this is something that I think we have to come to grips with. I know it's uncomfortable. I myself sometimes feel very uncomfortable, But I think that the wearing the mask is important. Continuing the washing of hands and the hand sanitizing, I think, is also very important. Let us not, because we have not had a case, abandon those practices. I think those practices continue to be important, and we should continue to heed the advice, because we owe a debt of gratitude to those in our health sector who have been on the front lines. And no amount of money in the world, no amount of praise in the world will be sufficient for people like Dr. Judy Nisbet and the team. They've really gone well above and beyond in order to keep us safe. And I want to commend them, as I've been doing, all of those on the front lines who have really, really provided to us an invaluable and Herculean service in keeping the people of Nevis safe. We are truly eternally in your debt. And so we thank you very much for that, and we hope to continue to be safe here, but at the same time to continue to deal with some of the big issues that we will ultimately have to deal with. Ladies and gentlemen, today I thought it was quite an important day, where we had the opening of a brand new funeral service, funeral home on the island of Nevis. Wally Funeral Home, it is called, the sister project to Lyamiga Funeral Home on St. Kitts. And it was right there at in the parish of St. James. I think they call it there Mutty Bottom, if memory serves. It is, and for me, was an interesting experience today. Interesting on a number of fronts. It's a beautiful edifice, very well done, very tastefully done and decorated. It is clear that these investors are serious investors. I would want, as I said today there, to publicly commend the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, because when that project came and he heard of that project, he really jumped on it and shepherded it through. He really worked very hard. He secured the project for his parish of St. James. He worked hard to bring it to fruition, and I believe that that project is a good demonstration of our government's commitment to investment and investors. And I made the point today, because I think it's an important point to make, that for a long time, we of this island and this country have had a fixation on what we call foreign investment. We have been bending over backwards to seek to accommodate those who come from abroad, foreign, as we like to say. And many land at our airports wearing a straw hat with shorts and some flip-flops. If you're lucky, they have a briefcase. Sometimes they don't even have that. They simply have a bag which says Irie-man. And they walk off with a bag which says Irie-man. Straw hat, flip-flops and shorts. And we say a big investor has arrived. And we bend over backwards. We give them land, we give them concessions, we give them all kinds of things. I'm not saying that foreign investment is not needed. I think absolutely it is needed. But that project there, that considerable investment that has been made in that funeral home, says to me that there is a pool of available local investment that we must also nurture, respect and develop. That our local business community must equally be given opportunities and concessions and level the playing field, so that they too can build a hotel, they too can start a business. And so I wanted to make that point, that my government, certainly, and my cabinet has taken a quantum leap forward in terms of how we approach these things, that we are no longer creating a special framework for the so-called foreign investor, which we are not prepared to provide to the local investor. So, put differently, we're treating our investors the same or similarly, and we're saying that concessions and assistance and making a way should be available to our local investors as well. And I'm very proud that this particular project is, if you will, the proof of the pudding in terms of the government seeking to partner in an active way with our local business community to create added value in our economy. That's point one. Point two, we have, ladies and gentlemen, suffered over the years from what I refer to as islandism. St. Kitts and Nevis are two islands, separated at the closest point by 2 miles of ocean. And that separation, that physical separation, has induced also an emotional and mental separation, where Nevisians naturally cling to Nevis and Kittitians naturally cling to St. Kitts. There's nothing wrong with that. I am very proud that I'm from the island of Nevis. Nobody can take that from me. And I'm sure the people of St. Kitts are equally proud that they're from the island of St. Kitts, and nobody can take that from them. We, however, I think, need now to raise our consciousness and to get to a point where we make it clear that regardless of the island of our birth or the island of our residence, that we are nevertheless one country. I look, for example, at places like the Bahamas. We here have 2 islands. The Bahamas has a chain of over 700 islands. You look at places like the Seychelles, you look at the Maldives, you look at all of these countries that have done well, and you see hundreds, if not thousands, of islands that together constitute a single country. Indonesia, all of these places. And they are able to coalesce, these various islands, and are able to identify with a national identity. That, in my view, has still eluded St. Kitts and Nevis after more than now a century of being together, more than 35 years of independence as a nation. We still have a sense that it is Nevis first or St. Kitts first, and that oftentimes is the root of a lot of difficulties that we experience. And so I think that what I would like to see is the people of Nevis being, as we are, extraordinarily proud that we are from Nevis. We feel it's the best place in the world. The people of St. Kitts being extraordinarily proud of St. Kitts. They feel it's the best place in the world. But together, we feel that the nation of St. Kitts and Nevis is the best place in the world. And the reason I say that is because I think that islandism, as I've called it, has hampered our national growth and development, particularly our economic growth and development. Why do I say that? You find that there's been, for example, businesses on St. Kitts, the bigger of the 2 islands, that have existed there for decades, have prospered. But you know what? They have never opened a branch or made any investment on the island of Nevis. You equally have businesses on Nevis. There's some of them are household names. They have prospered, they've done well. But you know what? They have never sought to go to St. Kitts and conquer the market in St. Kitts, which is a larger market than Nevis. And so you have, just like our political parties that contest only on St. Kitts and those that contest only on Nevis. You have businesses that contend for business only on Nevis and businesses that contend for business only on St. Kitts. And if I'm in Nevis and I want, I don't know, Amri bread or Fritz bread, I have to go to St. Kitts to get it because it's not available to me. They have not sought to extend that in Nevis. I use those 2 because they're examples that just jump to mind. But the truth is that there are a number of businesses in St. Kitts that have never seen it fit to put a footprint on Nevis, and vice versa. If I want the benefit of Hunkin's Funeral Home or Elliott's Funeral Parlor in St. Kitts, there's no way I can get it other than coming over to Nevis and interacting on Nevis. There's no window agency or outlet, that's the word I'm looking for in St. Kitts, that I can benefit from. You see that a lot, that people come in, and the way I look at it is, I think the last census figures suggest that Nevis has about 1/3 of the population of St. Kitts and Nevis. So if you look at it in terms of a pie, you have a pie that is 50,000 people for sake of argument. 1/3 of those people are in Nevis. 2/3 are in St. Kitts. If you are a Nevis business and you decide that Nevis is the only place that you can do business, then you immediately deny yourself of 2/3 of the potential consumers. If you are a Sinkits business and you determine Sinkits is the only place you can do business, you immediately deny yourself of 1/3 of the consumers. That is why I feel that you have a lot of people, particularly young people, who are forced to travel back and forth in order to take advantage of various business and partake and patronize various businesses on either island, because the businesses themselves have not seen it fit to make that investment. And so today for me was really an important day. The symbolism of it was that the business houses on St. Kitts are finally coming to the realization that there's money to be made in Nevis. And they're coming over to invest to ultimately make a profit and make money on the island of Nevis. And I am encouraging more businesses in St. Kitts to take that leap. I had a very interesting conversation so many months ago on social media, because I recall I'd gone to a particular bakery in St. Kitts, which they say has an excellent reputation, great bread, but has no presence in Nevis. And I thought to myself, why doesn't it have a presence in Nevis? And equally, why does the Brand Bakery or the Key Bakery or whatever doesn't have a presence in St. Kitts? It's an interesting question. Is it that we are saying, well, our business should grow only so much and not become national in nature? That we are comfortable with our business just being an island business? Or we want it to be a national business? These are very, very important questions. And yes, some people are satisfied. They say, listen, I have 2 trucks and I'm making a good living. I don't need to bother to fret up myself to invest too heavily. And that's fine. But for those who really want, I recall, for example, that when they were doing the project in Old Road Bay, a lot of truckers in Nevis decided to take their truck over. That is their right. And they did some work over there. And I want us to get to a stage where truckers in Nevis feel comfortable doing that, as indeed truckers in St. Kitts feel comfortable. And you have that constant, because this is our country. I'm making that point. In my press conference of last week, I made the point that every boy and girl, whether you're from Bastia or you're from Charlestown, that you must be able to aspire to every position in the country. You must be able to be the Prime Minister. You must be able to be the Governor General. You must be able to be a judge, one ambassador. You must be able to be the top businessman, the biggest business. Whatever your aspiration is, nobody should tell you that you can't aspire beyond a certain station because you're from Nevis, or for that matter because you're from St. Kitts. If we are truly one country, it gets to a point where I think that every person out there must aspire. And if you're a businessman, you must be a national businessman. You must take the fight and say, listen, I am not going to abandon 2/3 of the populace that is in St. Kitts. I'm selling the best bread, the best donuts, the best drink, the best smoothie, whatever it is in the Federation, and I'm going to expand. Bam! I'm in Bastia, I'm in Frigate Bay, I'm in Sandy Point. Because it's your country. And vice versa. So for me, there was a tremendous symbolism of this petition-based business saying, listen, we are going to come to Nevis and we are going to invest in a significant way. So we have 2 points so far. One, that it is government policy. I'm very proud of my government that has said that local investors and local business must be given the maximum support, just as we do for foreign investors. That's one. 2, that clearly the people of St. Kitts are waking up to the reality that there's money to be made on the sister island of Nevis and are coming to invest accordingly. And the converse of that is that I want the businesses in Nevis to wake up to that possibility. And there are some. I'm very proud, for example, of my good friend there, Gaston Barry at Gaspre, because I know he does a lot of work in St. Kitts. I'm very proud of my other good friend Leon Lescott and Finish Touch, because again I go to St. Kitts, I see the trucks on the road in St. Kitts. But they should not be the exception. It should become the norm that the businesses in Nevis see that they can also go to St. Kitts and compete, and vice versa. I think that is important. The third point I would make is that What struck me today, and it has always been something that I marvel at. You know, when I interact with the people who identify as Kittitian, I use that language on purpose. The people who identify as Kittitians, when you start to peel away the layer, you realize that their roots are heavily embedded in the island of Nevis. Our Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, from time to time when he's giving his public addresses, he reminds that his father is from Cotton Ground. He's not alone. You go through the highways and byways, the alleys, the hamlets and the villages in St. Christopher, and you would realize that a large percentage of the population, including a significant percentage of those who occupy positions of power and prestige in St. Kitts, have roots deeply embedded in Nevis. Mother from Nevis, maybe father from Nevis, grandmother from Nevis, somebody in that family is from Nevis. Some of them grew up in Nevis, spent their summers in Nevis. Why? Because the family roots are right here in Nevis. And so today, imagine how I marveled that Mr. Jones and family, who are, if you will, the patriarch of this investment and this company that is now investing and has invested significantly on both St. Kitts and Nevis, that Mr. Jones is from Hanley's Road, or Henley Part as we say. His wife, I'm gathered, is from Charlestown. There's some debate as to whether she's from Low Street or Craddock Road, but I'm told she's from Charlestown. And so here we have a husband and wife who are Nevisian, but who have made a life and invested, of course, in St. Kitts and grown a business for themselves and their family in St. Kitts. And the next generation now is coming and saying, hey, we in a way are coming home to Nevis to invest. And I thought that that was very instructive, because as I put it today, they have come full circle, a full 360, because here we have not descendants necessarily, Nevisians themselves, one from Henley Ford, one from town, coming together, having beautiful children on the island of St. Kitts, and after all these years have come right back home to invest. And I believe that that, ladies and gentlemen, is another lesson to be learned. That a lot of times people identify as Kittitian, but when you really examine, they might have been born in St. Kitts, but the roots are right here on this little island of Nevis. And that is understandable based on our history, because the history suggests that the people of Nevis would have gone to St. Kitts to seek work, to settle, and ultimately would have had families and children over there. Look at the civil service in St. Kitts. Examine them. You'll be amazed how many of them in significant positions were either born here in Nevis or their parents are from Nevis. The financial secretary, who was Wendell Lawrence, I believe that his family is right here from the base, as we call it. Then we have the current financial secretary, Hilary Hazel. I was very pleased to understand that her family is from right here, her father, from right down there in Hanley's Road, and that she herself would have spent many summers growing up here on the island of Nevis. So when you start, the Prime Minister, different people, look at them, look carefully. The Michael Powells, the JNF France, all these people are either born or have roots heavily embedded on the island of Nevis. And so it ought to make it easier, not harder, easier, for that transition in terms of mentality that I'm talking about. Because in reality, when you come to Nevis or you're doing something, you're coming home. You are home. Because St. Kitts and Nevis should be your home. The other way around is not so common. That is, people who identify as Nevisian traditionally do not have any parentage or any lineage in St. Kitts, because we have not had a tradition or history of Kittitians pouring over to Nevis to work and settle and have families. It exists, but it is not as common as Kittians, or those who identify as Kittians, having deep roots on the island of Nevis. So, to me, in terms of our cognitive state, our mental state, our emotional state, that we are proud of our island, but we should also be proud of our nation. And that pride should encourage us to look for opportunities, wherever they are, academic, political, business, jobs, you name it. Look for opportunities on both islands. If you are a trucker in Nevis, you own an excavation company, whatever, there's business in St. Kitts. If you are a contractor, in fact, a fourth lesson to be learned is I'm told that the funeral home, beautifully done, was done by a contractor from St. Kitts. And he would have come over, hired subcontractors, etc. over here, and produced a beautiful edifice. Now we know that Nevis has some of the best builders in the world. You just have to start to go through to name. And I wouldn't name all the ones because you run yourself into trouble. There are some excellent builders in Nevis. Have you ever heard they do a big project in St. Kitts? There are some excellent builders in St. Kitts. Have you ever heard they do any big project in Nevis? In fact, what I find is interesting, and I will call the name because I believe that that makes my point. You have a Jamaican company, Surrey Paving, that has come here. They came to Nevis initially. Surrey has done road building, all kinds of things in Nevis and in St. Kitts, and they go back and forth. I say that to say that Surrey is from Jamaica. But Surrey came and saw opportunities in the nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. They realize you can make money in Nevis, you can make money in St. Kitts. But you have people on the island of St. Kitts who say that they must be restricted to the island of St. Kitts. And you have people on the island of Nevis who say that I must restrict myself to the island of Nevis. And the consequence of that is that we do not see the opportunity, but companies from abroad come in, and they not only see it, they grab it, they seize it, and they make money. So I think that today was important on a number of levels. And I really would like to see some of the famous bakeries in St. Kitts open a branch in Nevis. Some of the businesses in Nevis open a branch in Nevis. I'm sorry, in St. Kitts open a branch in Nevis. Right? And I'm going to say so plain because these are things I've said publicly. I look at, for example, that you have doctors, highly trained doctors from Nevis, never Stringberry in Nevis. And if patients in Nevis want to see them, they must take the boat and go to St. Kitts. Because those doctors are not offering a service in Nevis to the people of Nevis. That's a prime example. There are some doctors and other professionals who are from the island of Nevis, but they have not seen it fit to open even a little cubby hole, even a 2x4 office on Nevis to serve the 13,000, 14,000 people on Nevis, so that Nevisians who want to see them must traverse the ocean and go to St. Kitts to see them. And you wonder to yourself what it would do in terms of employment, in terms of the economy, in terms of expansion, if all of those people were to say, hey, why not open an agency, an office, an affiliate, whatever it is, on the island of Nevis? And equally, those in Nevis, there's a law firm called Daniel Brantley that I've been associated with now for many years. Of course, I took a sabbatical in 2013 when I was elected to government and have not been back since. But Daniel Brantley got a reputation as an excellent leading law firm in the country. But equally, if you were on St. Kitts and you wanted to use the services of Daniel Brantley, you had to catch a boat and come over to talk to us. If you're Kelsey, Wilkin and Ferdinand, you have been a leading law firm in the country for years. But if any division business wants that, they got to traverse over to St. Kitts to talk to them. Now, why does Kelsey, Wilkin and Ferdinand not have an office in Nevis? Why does Daniel Brantley not have an office in St. Kitts? I'm choosing these examples deliberately. The reason I chose Daniel Brandley is because obviously I'm involved or was involved with that. So I am not just talking and saying that other people, I'm including myself in the category. So there is, to my mind, a need now for us to change that paradigm. Post-COVID, we have to think differently. If you're making bread in St. Kitts and making money making bread, you could make bread in Nevis and make money making bread. Or find a way to sell your bread in Nevis too, and vice versa. Same boat that taking over to St. Kitts. Raisin roll and bread from the Nevis bakeries can come back with raisin roll and bread from the St. Kitts bakeries. And people then compete on quality, on service, on price, and get market share. Not just Nevis share or St. Kitts share, but market share nationally. That, I think, is where we must go. And that, I think, is where we'll eventually end up. And there are good examples of it, you know. Good synergies already worked out. You look at the water taxi and how people like Vincent Perkins have developed relationships with the land-based taxis in St. Kitts, that you now book a water taxi and a land-based taxi, wham, seamless. So they are examples, but my argument is they're not sufficient examples. And that more and more we need to encourage those on St. Kitts to come and invest in Nevis, especially those who come from Nevis, especially those who got their roots in Nevis. Come home and invest on the island that bore you. And those from Nevis, equally, invest in St. Kitts. And if I can put it this way, come home, because St. Kitts is also your home. It's one country. That, to my mind, is an important lesson. But to do so, we must tweak the way we think and start to see ourselves. You know, there's some people who feel like, listen, I'm going to be the best mason in Cotton Ground. I'm going to be the best carpenter in Hanley's Road. They may even say I'm going to be the best mason in St. Thomas's. I'm going to be the best carpenter in Gingerland. They may even say I'm going to be the best mason and the best carpenter in Nevis. But I want us to get to a stage where we say I'm going to be the best carpenter in the country. Not just in the island, but in the entire country. That when people want the best cabinets, they're going to call one of the cabinet makers in Nevis because they offer the best. And that, to some extent, is already starting to happen. Because I know that there are cabinet makers in Nevis, for example, people who produce doors and windows, who do good work in St. Kitts. But I want that to become the norm, not the exception, the norm. All them boats going back and forth, let the boats go back and forth with goods. Not just people going over, that's important, but also with goods, with inter-island traffic and trade. You know, I was reminded in St. Kitts recently that there was a time not so long ago that Nevis was the breadbasket of the Federation. Indeed, when you look at the tragedy, that was the Christina disaster, which this year we will commemorate its 50th anniversary, the sinking of the MV Christina. When you look at that tragedy, I am told that a lot of people were in fact people who would traditionally be going to market. We used to call them Tunhan. They go over to St. Kitts. Now people go mostly with things like mangoes, because Nevis is famous for its mangoes. But there was a time when Kittitians got their food, their fruits, their vegetables, their potato, their yam, their tanya, their bananas from Nevis. I am saying that we could get right back to that type of thing, where St. Kitts has a competitive advantage, farmers over there are sending their product to Nevis. And where Nevisians have a competitive advantage, the farmers over here are sending their product to St. Kitts. And they're even liaising with each other. So you have a farmer in Sandy Point who's in partnership with a farmer here in New River. The farmer in New River has melons. He sent over to his partner in Sandy Point. Sandy Point have onions and peppers. He sent over to his, and you have that kind of interaction. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, you know. COVID has taught us that at the end of the day, we must rely on each other. Perhaps we always knew it to be so, but it has taught us that we must be able to rely on each other. And part of that is ensuring that every person, every mind that is available to our country, and all the minds that are available to us, wherever they may come from, that those minds are pressed into service for the development of our beautiful nation of St. Christopher and Nevis. Now, why would you say all the minds wherever they come from? Because I got some amazing news tonight. We all know Dr. Everson Hull, who was, I'm advised, the first ever PhD in economics from Howard University, one of the major schools in the United States. And he now serves as our ambassador to the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C. Now, he sent me a message and spoke to me as well. And he's indicating to me that there is a young lady, and I'm going to give her a shout out because I think it's important, a Dr. Marcy Jagdeo Adekoya. I hope I've said that correctly. Dr. Marcy Jagdeo Adekoya, who apparently is Guyanese, but who has just done an extraordinary job, I'm told, with a PhD dissertation at Howard University. Dr. Marcy Jagdeo Adekoya. And you may ask, well, why are you celebrating and congratulating Dr. Jagdeo Adekoya? Well, her success is my success. Her success is our success. We are Caribbean people. So I will celebrate her because of that. But we have also now discovered that Dr. Jagdeo's parents, who I'm told are Mohani and Dekumar or Simeon Jagdeo, that they live right here in Nevis. You see how life is? You see how life is? So we want to congratulate tonight publicly Dr. I want to make sure I get the name right. Dr. Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, Jagdeo Adekoya. Dr. Jagdeo Adekoya, congratulations. I'm told that your dissertation for your PhD at Howard University is absolutely a phenomenal piece of work. I get that on good authority. And I want to congratulate you, but also to congratulate your parents, Mohani and Dekumar or Simeon Jagdeo, who I am advised lived right here in Nevis and whose daughter has just emerged with a PhD from Howard University in Washington, D.C. And look how life is funny. One of the persons reviewing her dissertation for a PhD is Dr. Everson Hull, also from Nevis here in Bath Village. You see how life is? You see how we must celebrate each other? Because look at the connections and the points of contact with Dr. Jagdeo Adekoya. That last bit of the name there is getting me, so let me make sure. Adekoya, Dr. Jagdeo Adekoya, getting a PhD when her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Jagdeo, are in Nevis, people resident in St. Kitts and Nevis, and now one of the persons who has been part of the process for her happens to be our ambassador to the OAS, a man from Bath Village, Dr. Everson Hull, the first PhD in economics from Howard University. That, ladies and gentlemen, is really phenomenal. And I'm told that Dr. Jagdeo Adekoya, that her thesis had to do with the CSME, the Caribbean Single Market and Economy. And a brilliant, brilliant piece of work. So, to her parents and to her, I extend my congratulations. To the Guyanese community here in Nevis, I believe wherever you are, if you're listening, you should be celebrating, because it shows that our people are making their contribution wherever they go. And that is why I segued into this by saying that when I talk about divisions and petitions, achieving and seeking to aspire to the highest heights in their country, in business, in politics, in every facet of human development, that those who have made St. Kitts and Nevis home, like Mr. and Mrs. Jagdeo, who are producing brilliant sons and daughters, like Dr. Jagdeo Akiboya, that all of these ought to be welcomed to make their contribution. And that is the point I'm seeking to make tonight. That if we are to grow, particularly as we try to restart and reorient our economy post-COVID, we must have every hand on deck. Every shoulder must be to the wheel. There is no longer Kittitian versus a division, or Guyanese versus a Spanish, or somebody from the Dominican Republic, a Jamaican versus a St. Lucian. Everybody, Tut Mun Saman Bagay, must now be singing the same Sankey and pulling in the same direction if we are to get past this period and get back to a path of prosperity in our country. And I believe we can do it. God has been good to us thus far. He has saved us the worst of the ravages of COVID, and we're praying that He saves us from hurricane this year and that we have no further calamity, and so we can be allowed to start that process. But to do so, we need to harness all the talent in the country, all. And the people in the country must start to look. If you go St. Kitts and you see an opportunity, grab it if you're from Nevis. If you come Nevis and you see an opportunity, grab it if you're from St. Kitts, just as the good people at Wally Funeral Home have done. And I'm told that the family is saying they're not done there. They have other investments that they will be making in Nevis, and they are welcomed. And you will find, as I like to say, there's a sign that my government has put up in Nevis. You know what the sign says? Open for business. That's what the sign says. And if you're out there listening to me, your business person in St. Kitts, those doctors and lawyers who I'm talking about, come over and set up yourself. For some of you, come home to Nevis, where you're from, and set up yourself. And let the people of Nevis benefit from your expertise. And you benefit from the money that is available to be made in Nevis and the expansion of your business in Nevis. And vice versa. Those businesses in Nevis who see that opportunity, do not limit yourself. Expand into St. Kitts. You have the best bread, the best raisin roll, the best roti. Well, you know, think Sandy Point people and Cairn people want to eat the best. And compete. Compete. That is what I think we need. That sense in the country. That is one country, we're chugging along, we're moving. That is why I have always said, and I say so publicly, even though I've been ridiculed for saying so, Park Hyatt is closer to Nevis than it is to the rest of St. Kitts. If you are working at the Park Hyatt and you live in Sandy Point, you have more trouble getting to work than if you're working at the Park Hyatt and you live in any part of the island of Nevis. And so, when I see people from Nevis, many of them left jobs at Four Seasons and elsewhere to go and work at the Park Hyatt, I did not see it as a bad thing. I was criticized. People say, oh, no work in Nevis, so they gotta go St. Kitts to work. I said, that is nonsense. When the Four Seasons open, look how many Kittitians work there. I well remember my good friend, people like Roger Brisbane, they got their start in hospitality at the Four Seasons in Nevis. Nobody ever said, oh, no work in St. Kitts. No. If we are one country, they should be able to come and work. And so when people were going over to the Park Hyatt, I did not see it as a negative. I saw it as a positive. Because Nevis has always been known for the superior service, superior training and hospitality that we have offered. And so if hotels and establishments in St. Kitts can benefit from that, and that infusion of that quality of service and hospitality for which Nevis has always been famous, what is wrong with that? Again, we must elevate in terms of our thinking and said to ourselves that if we hear opportunity knocking anywhere in our country, if you're right now sitting down up in Rollins and you hear that there's an opportunity in Phillips Mountain in St. Kitts, you have a right, note my words, you have a right to seek out that opportunity, because you are a citizen of this country entitled to the full fruits of your citizenship. And if you're sitting now in Phillips Mountain listening to me, and you hear that there's an opportunity in Rollins Mountain in Nevis, you have a right to seek out that opportunity, because you are a national of St. Kitts and Nevis entitled to the full fruits of your citizenship. And if you can get to that stage where what we're looking for now is to build on the synergies and bring all the people on board and put all of them to work, unleash the potential in the country, not limit ourselves, I believe that you will see a fundamental shift in our approach. And while I don't want to belabor it, because I'm looking at the economy, it's going to happen with the politics too, you know. Mark my word today. Today is the 1st of July. It's going to happen. Young people ask me all the time as I campaign, how come CCM only run in Nevis? How come PAM only run in St. Kitts, or Labour only run in St. Kitts? And the answer is that there is no constitutional or legal reason. Any party in St. Kitts can field candidates in Nevis and vice versa. Any party in Nevis can field candidates in St. Kitts. It has become now a tradition, a practice, not the law. And so NRP and CCM have stuck to Nevis, and PAM and Labour have stuck to St. Kitts. Well, PLP is now in the mix, but in terms of the big parties traditionally, PAM and Labour have fought in St. Kitts, CCM and NRP have fought in Nevis. And you have not found, except in the old days in times gone, that any of the parties have fielded candidates in Nevis. And while I'm told that PAM and Labour in the past used to have candidates in Nevis, I have never heard that NRP or CCM have ever had any candidate in St. Kitts. And so even in our politics, there is no national identity, no national party. Team unity is the closest that we have come thus far. But even team unity is merely an umbrella. Team unity is not a party. Team unity is a house in which there are three parties living and coexisting together. But there is no party called Team Unity. You have never gone to a ballot box and see Team Unity candidate Mark Brantley. No. You go and you see CCM Mark Brantley. You see PAM Sean Richards. You see PLP Akila Byron Nisbet. So that again is an area which I think in the fullness of time is going to change. And whatever the parties are, I think over time, as the new generation comes on board and ideas and there's a paradigm shift, you're going to have political parties which are once again national in nature, which have come together because they are now mapping out a national identity. And I think it is only inevitable that that will happen. Whether it will be in my lifetime or not, I do not know. But I would like to think that at least I would have contributed to starting a conversation that the people of our country must move now beyond their natural pride in the island of their birth and start to have that equal pride in the nation of their birth. That for me is where we start the process of unleashing the full potential that our country has to offer. And with those more than a few words, it is 5 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. And I will open the lines at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700 for any comments, questions, or points that you may have to put on the table yourself, and if you want to be a part of the show. Now, last week, I got a little stick because one of my friends called in and was a bit overly long. So I'm asking you to call if you have something to say, to take the shortest route to the point that you have to make. so that we can have as many calls as we can accommodate in the next hour and 5 minutes. The lines are now open if you want to call, if you want to put something on the table, if you want to say congratulations to the Jones family for their significant investment in Nevis today, whatever you want to say. Once, of course, we continue to maintain the high standards that we've set here at Von Radio, where only the best will do. And if you're watching me, or if you're listening to me, and for many, I'm sure you're both watching and listening, I welcome you to On The Mark. I'm Mark Brantley, your host, and it must mean that you're tuned into the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, www.vonradio.com or Von Radio on Facebook. And that's where you see me streaming live. Technology has now overtaken us here. And so that is what we do now, is stream live, so you can now watch me and listen to me at the same time. But if you want to be a part, then pick up your phone and call 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Now, if you're in New York, if you're in Florida and those places where we're still having great uncertainty and difficulty with COVID, we'd also like to hear from you to find out how you're faring, how your families are doing. So please give us a call, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're our first caller.
Yeah, good evening, Honorable Premier.
Good evening.
I have to agree with you, but this is something, the last point that you made there about the political parties being able to contest all 11 seats is something that I would have said some way back, sometime in the 90s, because I could never understand how we are going to have a federal election when after they had changed to the 8-3 program, then I realized that, but that's not fair, because then the people in St. Kitts having only 8 seats to contest. Nevis has 3. Well, we could always join, which we did, and we probably will continue to do. But I think the politicians themselves, they need to understand that they have a right to contest all 11 seats throughout the whole of the federation. And I don't think anybody took it at that time, because they say, right, the Nevisian politicians can't compete in St. Kitts. And, you know, it came about that way. But I think that rather than just saying it, there is a move have to be made towards that. Contest all 11 seats. And I will leave it at that for your comment.
But let me ask you before you go, why do you think that is so?
I think that the politicians set it so. The parties set it like that because we are saying we have an advantage, and then after we understood in Nevis that we could always swing our vote to any side we want to take an advantage. And also the mindset of the Sinkis against Nevis thing, that was also a problem, because how safe is it going to be? How difficult is it going to be for any party in Nevis to go over in St. Paul's to campaign? So those were the issues. I think those are the underlying issues why it was not addressed.
And do you think that there's scope for it to be addressed now?
Well, now I think it's a little easier. I think so. I'm not sure how it will turn out, but I'm hoping for the best, like you say, in the distance.
Okay. All right, my brother, thank you for your input and your contribution. I would just like to reinforce the point that I made earlier, that there is no law or constitution or anything that prohibits. It is, as you say, whether it's the politicians or the people or the parties, they have set it so, and it has been so for some time. But certainly everything in this country, the politics, the business, you name it, is available and should be available for everybody in the country, and there's nothing that prohibits it. We have decided that we are going to do it a particular way. Now, you said about the parties in Nevis. It also would mean, of course, that a party in St. Kitts, because there are 8 seats over there, contesting over there, and getting 6 or more, can form a government and exclude the entire island of Nevis, and that has happened in the past. And so the fact that there are only 3 seats on Nevis means that the only way that any party can be in government from Nevis is to be in a coalition, because you can never form a government just from Nevis. You can, however, form a government just from St. Kitts, and that has happened in the past when, for example, Labour had, I think, all 8 and then 7 or something like that. So you have like different nuances to this, and it is interesting how our history has developed in that particular way, because in my own experience, and perhaps others can call who have experiences in other twin island states or multi-island states, but I know my colleagues from the Bahamas, for example, one of my good friends, my brother Darren, the Foreign Minister Darren Henfield, he is with a political party, but he runs on one of the family islands. That's his constituency. And so the party is national, but the various constituencies might have people. So, for example, if CCM were to expand into St. Kitts, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is Nivisions who will go over to run. It may well be that you find people in St. Kitts to run on a CCM ticket and vice versa. Now, of course, I'm speaking in a highly theoretical way, and I think the caller has emphasized whether or not as a practical matter that would make sense. But that's a matter for debate, and that's what we're here for, to encourage debate and discussion in our country. So let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Mr. Harris was talking about last week concerning the step workers and the job letter that they can get, like to go to a bank or get a loan, and then they could go to like Barbados to get, the visa and so forth. So that step workers move from step to public government. So it's over 3,000 plus in St. Kitts and Nevis. So can you please, I don't know if you have the information concerning that towards the Nevis end. So can you please explain that for us, please?
Okay. Caller, the short answer is I do not have the information. Dr. Harris, as the Prime Minister, would have made this commitment that step workers are going to come on to the payroll of the government and therefore become public servants in that sense. The idea, I think, is a wonderful idea. What I'm trying to find out is how the idea is to be implemented in terms of payment, because obviously additional workers on government's payroll means that the government has to have the resources to pay those workers. And so that is a matter that I have to raise with the Prime Minister to determine what the thinking is, because people who are on the NIA payroll have to be paid by the NIA. Currently, those workers are paid through the Citizenship by Investment Program and are therefore not on the NIA payroll, nor are they on the federal payroll. So if you're going to change that status, and there's good reason, I appreciate, to do that, the question is, how then are they to be paid? And so those are questions that have to be addressed, and there has to be a discussion on that. And so I do not yet have, and I don't like to come to the public with inaccurate or incomplete information. So I will duck tonight and tell you that I will try to have those discussions so that when next you ask me, I can answer in a sensible way what the proposal looks like for step workers to come onto the government payroll.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're most welcome, and thank you for the question. It is 5 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call, and for those just tuning in, you're listening to the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, www.vonradio.com or 860 on your AM dial. Last week, I had an opportunity to talk about the strides that we were making in Nevis in agriculture. I went back to that theme during my press conference as well on Thursday last to talk about the phenomenal development that we've seen. And you know what is funny? I saw something someone sent me that is attributed to the NRP. And I smiled to myself because rather than commending, bear in mind we just come out of an election and the NRP lost that election. This is the worst beating that anybody has got in a long time. They lost it badly. One would have thought that they would understand that when our people are making strides, because I want us to understand, the government has provided an excellent stimulus package to farmers in Nevis because we emphasize that aspect of our response to COVID. And I said time and time again that COVID has taught us that we must no longer be reliant on tropical coming from Miami for our people to eat. We must have some resilience in terms of our food security. And when I met with and spoke to the cabinet, and you don't have a more enthusiastic minister, no federal, he was local, now he's both local and federal, than Alexis Jeffers. The man is committed to agriculture. And so one would have thought that the response, when a man like Kitty Herbert, a man I have tremendous respect for, could write an article to say that he has not seen this level of interest in agriculture in Nevis in decades, that what we are seeing is a response by individuals who are saying, you know what, the message is right, coming from the government. We must produce more food for our people to eat. And the environment is right because the government, look here, free water, free seeds, free seedlings, free plowing, free fencing, free labor, free fertilizer. The inputs that we have created for our farmers have never been seen before in this country. And you know what I love to see? The number of young people that are responding. Some of them young university graduates who are setting up shade houses and greenhouses, hydroponics, and are getting into farming in a substantial way. There's a mood in the country. And so I use the opportunity to give some statistics. What were those statistics? Things like lettuce, sweet potato, pumpkin, in which there was a reduction. The only category in which there was a reduction was pumpkin. Watermelon. What else? I think we had peppers, tomatoes, etc. Now the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, are phenomenal. Phenomenal. Sweet potato, for example, went from I think 640 pounds in the second quarter, because I was very, very careful about saying that this covered a comparison between April and June 2019 and April and June 2020, the second quarter. Not the full year and not the first quarter. Just this 3-month period, April to June. And that period saw significant increases in all categories except pumpkins on the island of Nevis. Sweet potatoes went from 640 pounds in the April to June period 2019, compared now, I believe it was to 4,600 pounds in the second quarter, April to June 2020. It is obvious, ladies and gentlemen, that the stimulus has worked. Extending it as we did in a clever policy that says that even backyard farmers could benefit, it is clear that it has worked, and it is working. So I hear now the same nattering neighbors of extreme negativity say, oh, that don't make nothing because sweet potato take 5 or 6 months to bear. So it can be the stimulus that has produced an upsurge in sweet potato production. Oh, them increases in tomato and thing, that only means that you have so much pounds per day per family, and that ain't nothing. And I'm saying you just get a licking of a lifetime. You ain't learned by now that what you must do is encourage people, because the government is not the government. Mark Brantley ain't growing up yet, you know. I plan to, but I'm not in it yet. Who's growing are the people. And rather than encouraging them, you seek to ridicule their efforts because you want to say that the government's program isn't working, notwithstanding the clear evidence. So, you know, I have people who I can turn to because I am not trained in agriculture, but I have a guy here called Eric Evelyn, has spent a lifetime in agriculture. Alexis Jeffers has been the minister and the best minister of agriculture that we've had. The best. So much so that at the federal level they've now asked him to serve there as well, because they've seen what he has done in Nevis. And Eric Evelyn said to me, but that level of commentary is silly because sweet potato have different varieties. Some bear, I'm told, in 3 months. Some bear in 4 months. So what nonsense is that? Because the stimulus, you could say, we certainly started to invest more heavily in agriculture in February, March of this year. The stimulus was announced. I believe it was sometime in March. It could have been in early April. But the investment and the encouragement of agriculture has been there now for the last several months. And for other crops like the tomatoes and the sweet peppers and things, we know that those are quick crops. And in fact, another brilliant aspect to this policy was that we encourage farmers to focus on short-term crops. We said to them, we want to incentivize you to invest in short-term crops because we did not know what was happening with COVID. And what we wanted to be sure is that in 6 weeks, 2 months, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, that we had food here on the island. And that's what has happened. And the numbers bear out. Because in some cases, the increase is over 100% in terms of production when you compare the period last year and the period this year. So my little advice to what is left, the remnants of the NRP, is learn from your mistakes. Start to encourage people. Start to sound a note of positivity. You don't need to congratulate the government. That's not necessary. But at least congratulate the farmers who are out there working hard and producing. Encourage them, because food security is good for all of us. Last time I checked, CCM people eat, and then our people must eat too. So, congratulate the farmers. If you don't even want to say that Minister Jeffers is doing a good job. I look recently at Maddens. When I see the number of cattle now at Maddens, and the fact that Nevis is no longer importing beef for any of our ground beef and all of that is produced at the abattoir. Phenomenal achievement. Phenomenal achievement. So if you don't want to say congrats to the government, I understand that might be difficult. But congratulate the fellas then who work in the Department of Agriculture, who working at the livestock farm at Maddens. Encourage them. But perhaps I'm giving away too much. So let me go back to the phones. We have a call? No? Callers 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. The simple lesson that I'm seeking to impart to all of us. Post-COVID, post-election, we need all hands on deck. This is not time to start to call down people and discourage people. This is time to encourage people. And you see the results of a campaign based on negativity. The people rejected it overwhelmingly. So we're going back there for. It says Einstein, who said the definition of madness, insanity, is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. You're going to get the same result. And the same result is that you get Burkina again. So Lord, how much more blows NRP going to take until they realize that the constant negativity, the constant attacks don't help them? Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello.
Good evening, Mark.
Good evening to you.
It is Martin.
How are you, my dear?
Thank you again.
You're most welcome, darling.
It's been very supportive.
Things have started off?
Yes.
Yes. I haven't reached yet, but we intend to come.
And you will come.
Yes.
But I just letting you know to advertise for me that I have in my vegetables there. My vegetables. I have the vegetable salt.
Ah.
Right? I have everything there because I cannot go to my stall anymore because I have to be in there with him. So I take the vegetables in there with me.
Okay, so you're not at the usual spot, you're in town now?
Yes. So I have the vegetables in there with me, so I just wanted to make a note of it and tell the people to have them there. I have everything. I have avocado, ripe bananas, tomato, plantain, the whole of cucumbers, So they could pick up everything at the same spot when they come. Thank you very much. Thanks again.
Well, thanks a lot. And listen, I need some avocado, so beg you look out for me.
Okay. How much I must leave for you?
Well, boy, if I could get even half a dozen, I like avocado.
Yes. Please come tomorrow. I have the whole works here.
Okay, darling.
Okay, bye.
Okay, God bless.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, see, that's what we do. We here, you know, and last week I said I wanted some mangoes. And so many people listen to this show. A gentleman called me the next morning. He said, my wife asked me to bring these mangoes for you. And they were the sweetest mangoes. So thank you for looking out for me. I'm going to go tomorrow and get some avocados from Mertlin. And we haven't seen many of those for this season. And I really like them. So I'm going to go and get some from my friend. And I invite people again to go and support young Kino. Remember, he had a terrible, terrible incident. He was a victim of crime, and he had some major surgery and major expenses, and he's trying to raise some money. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. No? Okay, we're sorry about that. Call up, please try again, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. We have about 45 minutes left, and we're taking your calls here on the mark. Let's go right back to the phones. Good evening. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I would like to send sympathy greetings going out to Dorothy Huggins. They're in church ground on the passing of her sister, Ursula Philpott, there in Orlando, Florida. And I would also like to say good evening to Avril Huggins there in Atlanta, and she's listening.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I recognize the voice.
Okay.
I hope you're okay. Good night. And I too joined in extending condolences. I wasn't aware. It's a family that I know very well, and I would like to extend condolences and to say that we remember you in our prayers, and thank you for calling in, caller, and making that, and to the entire family that are listening, good evening to you, and our deepest condolences on your loss, Dorothy and the entire family. So we pray and hope that the prayers of the multitude will comfort you in this your hour of bereavement, and we pray that Miss Philpott, I think you said her name was, that she had a good life, and that those that she leaves to mourn will have good memories of her. We are, regrettably, as I like to say, in life, death is a constant companion. And from the day that we are born, it is said we start to die. And it is an end that some say is inevitable, an end that we all shall meet, and it behooves us therefore to prepare ourselves and to live our lives in such a way that when that inevitable end comes, we are ready for it. Let's go back to the phones and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Batley.
Good evening to you.
I'm calling in an urgent piece of news thing here this evening. There is a piece of road here in Butlers called the Sistine Park Road.
Yes.
It looks like the forgotten child. At least the bastard child gets something now and again. But the forgotten child is forgotten altogether.
Yes.
It's in a terrible state. At least we could ask this Mr. Brandt, I hope he's listening. It needs really urgent looking after.
Yes.
It's in a terrible state. And in case you don't remember, it's called the Sistine Park Road in Butlers.
Caller, not only I remember, I know exactly where the road is. I will tell you that up
but
to...
you don't know exactly what state it's in.
Well, just listen to me. Up to today, in the cabinet, that road was discussed. If you listen to my press conference last Thursday, I indicated that the next stop for the public works was Butlers. And Minister Jeffers, who's the area representative, has up to today raised the issue of the same Sistine Path and the road in Butlers. The design for that road is being undertaken. That is the advice from Minister Brand. The government is now finishing two major projects, one on Brownhill and one on Craddock Road. And when those two are finished, which we expect to be during the course of this month, we will deploy to Butlers and Bath Village. And I said that very plainly in my press conference last week. So we apologize for the state of the road, but help is on its way. And I have said that publicly up to last week, and today in the cabinet room, that was reaffirmed by the cabinet, that the people of Butlers and Sistan Part in particular will get relief very shortly.
Okay.
So I have said that so that you know that relief is coming.
Okay. Mr. Batley,
Yes.
you could get Emery's bread and goodies at the supermarket at Hotspot supermarket.
Value Mart?
Value Mart, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I got some nice bonds, 6 in a package for $4.50.
Okay.
Very reasonable.
Okay, good.
And bread and all the goodies there.
But you see, Mr. Amway provided, I think, very generously some bread during
Yeah,
the
I
COVID.
know. I got bread from it. Yeah, I got.
Yes. And people have said that the product is a very good product. And now, as you say, it's available on the supermarket shelves. That is what I'm talking about. I believe when you go to the supermarkets in St. Kitts, you should equally see products from Brandon and the other bakeries in Nevis as well. So that's the point I was trying to make earlier when I had my soliloquy that lasted almost an hour. So thank you, caller, for that. And to the people of Butlers, as I said, on the road, we are aware and help is on its way. One thing I'll say about you, you have a representative that fights tenaciously in the cabinet every day for his constituency. And so believe me when I tell you that that is the position and that we are on our way. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello.
Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
You hear what you just said? That's one thing you could tell the gentleman. He got a representative who fight anyway. You fight to have your St. John stuff. Anyway, Mr. Brantley, I want to say sympathy to Yasmin Clark, Hugo Grant, and all of them Brown Hill people and the passing of Sanchez Springate.
Okay.
Yeah, he passed away in the States.
Wow, I didn't even hear that. Yes.
Yes, he did. So sympathy is going out to the family of him and all the Brown Hill people, because one thing Brown Hill people stick together.
Okay, well,
And my grandfather was from Brown Hill. I'm a Louis. Take that.
Your grandfather from everywhere. You got the most grandfather in the world. One minute you're from St. Paul's, next minute you're from Brown Hill. You're from everywhere. Right?
My grandfather named Reggie Lewis from Brown Hill.
I know Reggie Lewis.
That is donkey uncle.
I know Reggie Lewis very well.
Uncle, I'm a Louis. Right.
I'm not complaining, you know. I
My
think.
grandfather had left and went to St. Paul. That's how I become a St. Paulian. And then my mother is from St. Paul's. And then she came over to Nevis, went to Rollins and get married there. So I'm a Elliot also.
You mix up.
Well, I'm like, how are they? And Mr. Brantley, if you want some corn, go down at Rams. They're selling corn from agriculture.
When you say corn, what do you mean? Corn on the cob?
Corn on the cob, yes.
Okay,
because
good.
You know they can't get nothing out of the states and so agriculture having corn.
Yes.
And you don't have to even roast it or boil it. You could eat it just tough. Sweet.
Good.
And they had sweet potato, they had carrot, they had beets, they had all kind of things in the marketing. A boy, you know, Mark, I don't get them free, a boy.
What you gotta say that for?
Because no, you don't tell me.
I'm not telling you anything. What you got to say that for?
Mark, I know you well.
I was just about to congratulate your son on the excellent job he's doing. Now you're trying to tell the world that you buy, you don't get them for free. Well, everybody should buy.
From agriculture, a boy. I go down a marketing and I go buy me own self because no, you going to tell me so. I know you, Mark.
Well, I'm the Premier Nevis, and when I want, I got to buy too.
When you supposed to buy, Mark?
Well, you're supposed to buy too, so you're telling us you buy for? Huh? That's like people. That's like people. Every chance they get, they tell you they're Christian. What they got to tell you they're Christian for? The light should shine such that they don't need to say so. Huh?
I don't know you boss radio.
Anyway, thanks for the call.
You too.
You take good care. All right, and I join in extending condolences on the passing of Franchard as well. Springate family is, of course, a well-known family. Most of them they at Bridgegut in Brown Hill, and so I wasn't aware, but I certainly join you in extending my deep condolences to all the family that survived Franchard Springate. Let's go back to the phones. We don't have anybody holding. It is 25 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. The numbers again to call are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the program. I'm very happy with this last caller saying, oh, we have corn and beets and all of that available. Food production in Nevis. I'm telling you, I'm proud. It is on the rise. We have a team that is working and they're doing well. To God be the glory. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening, the Honorable Mac Brantley. This is Everson House.
Hi, Doc. How are you? I was just talking about you.
Hi, that's very kind of you. I heard a portion of it. I would like to call to thank you, for extending congratulations to Dr. Jadeo. I thought that she did an outstanding job, and that not only would I like to congratulate her on her achievement, which I've already done before, but I'd also like to congratulate her parents, who I only got to know of them this afternoon that they were actually on Nevis. That is Miss Mohante Jagdeo and Simeon Jagdeo.
Yes.
Congratulations, parents, if you're listening, on the outstanding achievements of your daughter. I think that she has made an enormous impact because what was most important to me is that she was addressing an issue that is of major national importance to the CARICOM region.
Mm-hmm.
It dealt with the movement of people between countries in the single market economy, and it drew attention to some of the challenges that they face, not only with respect to those who moved to Canada, those with respect to the USA, and to a lesser degree those with respect to the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, I thought that was most important because as a member of the group of the CARICOM Caucus of Ambassadors at the Organization of American States, many of the issues that she addressed in her dissertation were exactly the types of issues that we're wrestling with and smack in the middle of today. They include issues, for example, like the COVID issue that we're all struggling with, issues related to information technology, issues related to the hurricanes that are on the way, and the full range of issues are covered in a document. That, to me, gave enormous value to it. And on that basis, without pause or equivocation, I was obliged to endorse the product that she had produced and give her a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the message that is being sent, in my view, to both the students at the high school in Nevis and those not only from Nevis but from those of Guyana are very, very important. Because what is reflected in the work that she has done, goes back a long way to what she gathered at Charlestown Secondary School, or what they are gathering at Charlestown Secondary School and Gingerland High School. Because I view the educational process as building upon whatever has transpired before. So whatever they're doing, I think it is very important that they take it very, very seriously. Carry on those skills as to enter the college, complete the bachelor's degree, go on to the master's degree, and then do as Dr. Jadeo has done, in pursuing the doctoral degree, the terminal degree in the discipline, whatever that discipline might be. Because Nevis and St. Kitts are doing quite well in my view. We are at the head of the class in a number of very, very important areas. I say this often, but it's because I'm so very proud of it. It's the fact that we are now ranked number 3 in the Western Hemisphere in terms of our per capita income. Setting aside the USA and Canada, which are not members of our peer group, the Bahamas is at the head of the class, then it's Trinidad and Tobago with oil, and then who is ranked number 3? St. Kitts and Nevis. That to me is a big, big deal because, that means that we're taking better care of the welfare of our people than large countries such as Brazil and Argentina and Colombia and others are. We are holding our own in terms of providing for the welfare of our people. That matters a great deal. Now, one of the areas that really struck me with the dissertation is that at one point she drew attention to what we often concerned about the brain drain, but she made specific reference to folks who are actually in India who are now actually coming back to India, who have been abroad for a while. She refers to that as the brain gain. I would like to think that we in St. Kitts and Nevis can probably take that a step further with our diaspora policy in trying to reach out to those from St. Kitts and Nevis who are abroad. They are located in Canada, they're in the United Kingdom, they're in Washington, D.C., and I think that there's a solid pool of talent there that I would like to see be brought back home and integrated into what we already have at home in terms of addressing some of the complex issues that we're addressing.
I think that is within reach, and it is within reach and made possible by the fact that today now we have access to virtual communication. You know, your desk can be in any part of the world today in order to be able to communicate with each other.
Yes.
I would like to think that we will be seeing more of that, and that would help them to involve those who are abroad to be more involved in the development at home.
Well, Doc, you've given us a mouthful. I think that the statistical analysis, especially how St. Kitts and Nevis is stacking up to its peers, well, I can't even say its peers because it would be ludicrous if you can compare St. Kitts and Nevis to Brazil or Argentina with their vast resources. But the fact is that as a small island developing state, we have been doing very well. And we have to be careful to protect those gains and not to squander them. I believe that we have done well in the context of the OECS, we have done well in the context of the Caribbean region and Latin American region, and that we must continue to do so. But I believe the point that you're making, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that in blazing that path forward and continuing that upward trajectory, we must be able to harness all the potential of all the people that are available to us, including those in the diaspora. And so I share your view that with technology now, it really matters very little where you're physically present, because you could be in New York, logged on and logged in and working. You could be in Timbuktu, for that matter. And so technology has provided us with a fix for the brain drain in a way perhaps that we didn't have before, because our people now, this little show is listened to globally. You're speaking to me all the way from Washington, D.C., and everybody's hearing you. And I know that there are people in the UK, because today someone told me they're going to bed so they could get up later to listen to the show. So this little show is an example of how our people are connected. And it's amazing sometimes I come on. The other day I said, I want to shout out all the good people in Kitchener. And somebody WhatsApp me right away and say, we're here in Kitchener in Canada listening to you. So the technology really allows us a fix for the brain drain that we never hitherto had. And that will allow us, I think, to harness the incredible reservoir of resource in terms of human resource that we have outside the country. Because we have some brilliant Nevisians and Kittitians out there.
Absolutely.
Who are heading up some major institutions. I mean, I could start to call names, but I wouldn't get to the end of it. But we have some brilliant people who are in fashion, in accounting, in IT, engineering, right there in Washington, D.C., at NEV-DC. You know how many talented Nevisians we have available to us in that small area of Washington, D.C., Maryland, Delaware. Absolutely. So the truth is that I think you have hit the nail squarely on the head, as you always do. And we must now find a way to involve the diaspora in a tangible way in terms of our development, just as I've been calling for all the people that are here on St. Kitts and Nevis to put their shoulders to that collective wheel and to push the country forward. I believe those abroad as well. And I started out the show tonight talking about investment, because I also believe that some Kittitians and Nevisians abroad are well positioned to invest at home. Not just necessarily in a second home or a home at home, but also to invest in business and commerce. And I know, for example, that there is a chap called Dr. Beard from St. Kitts, who apparently has done quite well for himself in the medical field in Canada, and he has come back and is very interested in the cannabis industry, for example. Matter of fact, I'm told he has been advising the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in that industry. So the truth is that we have the talent at home and we have the talent abroad. The trick is, how do we harness that talent and put it to work for the development of the country?
Beautiful.
And I thank you for your role. I'm sure Dr. Jagdeo and her parents are quite grateful for your involvement. And you know, I'm very proud of you. You're one of my personal heroes for the path that you've taken. I tell people all the time, it couldn't have been easy to come from Bath Village in those days to make your way to the United States and become a PhD in economics from Howard University. That could not have been an easy path. And I think that these are the stories that we must keep telling, because our children must know that whatever the circumstances of their birth, whatever the lack of resources might attend their station in life at their birth, that ultimately we are limited only by the ambit of our ambition. And that to me is an important lesson, because our children should never feel that anything is beyond them. And the best way that you can see that is when you look at others and you say, what, a little boy from Bath Village was able to do this? A little boy from Handley's Road or Brown Hill? That is how, to my mind, you use tangible examples of people who have done it. And so, Doc, thank you for the call. It gives me an opportunity to publicly commend you and the path that you have walked in this life. I think we all are very proud of what you have achieved. And my hope would be that just as you've inspired fellows like me, that you would also inspire others, little boys and girls listening right now in Bath Village, to know that you have come from there to where you now are, where you are being asked to look at PhD dissertations for others and to determine whether they pass or fail. I believe that we should not tire in talking about our people and highlighting their achievements, because if one boy or girl out there is inspired, I think that it will be worth it. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome, sir. Good.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, we are taking your calls on 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Mark.
Yes.
Hello, Mark.
Yes.
You sing a song to you.
Who?
You want me to sing a song?
I don't know if I want to sing a song. You're an artist, you know how to sing?
What?
Hello?
What? Yeah. 96 degrees in the shade. We hot in the shade. 96 degrees. But I like that song, everybody know? That song, I know song. Right?
Yeah.
Thunder now work tonight. No thunder work.
I haven't heard any thunder. You say it's 96 degrees in the shade?
Thunder work tonight.
Alright, my brother, take care. Continue to enjoy your song, 96 degrees in the shade. Alright, you should enter the Nevis song competition, which is ongoing now. Come up with an original song and sing that. You could win $5,000. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good night to you.
What's the update on the status of the marijuana legalization?
There's no update that I can give yet. The matter is a matter that I believe has been set back, of course, because of COVID. We weren't meeting as a parliament, and because of the election, we, of course, had to get through that. But I know the matter is back on the front burner in terms of where we go, and I would imagine that we should have something very, very soon. It has been a matter that has been under discussion at the federal cabinet level, and I would anticipate that we will have some guidelines very soon. So I can't give you a definitive statement in terms of when, but I expect very soon, because there are many of us who are pushing very hard to get something done.
Okay, thank you. Since the government is focusing on agriculture at this moment in time,
yes,
what's your plans for the agro-processing plant?
Well, you say what's my plans? I think that's a question that should perhaps be better answered by the Minister of Agriculture, who's not me.
Oh.
But what I will say is that we are investing even now. I think there's a structure that is going up. If my memory is correct, I would want to think that it's in the New River area, where we are investing in a structure over there to assist us in that regard. In terms of the actual agro-processing plant, I know that we would have invested recently in some additional freezers and things of that nature, because we went in a major way into the mango pulping to have mango pulp available, and I was very pleased to hear that we have actually been able to export some mango pulp to neighboring islands, and so that's an area that we would want to continue in. But in terms of specifics, I think I'll have to get those from the Minister of Agriculture so that I can better update you when you ask that kind of question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're most welcome.
Have a good night.
All right, you too. Let's stick with the phones. If we have somebody else, good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Oh, Mr. Brantley, I forget this.
Yes.
I have a lot of banana trees in my backyard. I could give away about 20. Not to one person though. I'm going to share them.
20 what? Banana trees?
Green banana trees.
Okay.
And because agriculture got a lot of green bananas up there, so I could go and buy. When you're driving across the road, you could start in the main road and see all the banana trees. Agriculture got green banana. I have trees. And I have a lot of seasoned pepper, passion fruit, and passion fruit, seasoned pepper, and sweet pepper, and papaya seed. So you all could come by the restaurant and give you an eye some, because you see when I cut them out, I dry them. So you all can come and get some and stuff. People try to plant some little thing, put some little thing in a hole. So you could come and get all the seeds you want. But I'm not going to give nobody all the banana trees. I'm going to share them. So you come and you get them.
You see how you're boasting?
No, because...
No, listen to me.
Yeah.
You ain't even tell the people who you are. You assume people know who you are.
Can everybody know me? You argue.
You assume people know who you are. You're calling you so big and boasty and say, come by the restaurant. Well, which restaurant they must go by?
I take off for you. You train me. So put off. So anyway, come at Rodney's.
Rodney's restaurant, yes.
Right. And I'll tell you, bring you up by my home. You could dig out at least, everybody could get about 2. I'm going to give you about 20. I can't give no more.
Yes.
And a lot of papaya seeds and sweet pepper and seasoned pepper seed. Come man, and I sow them and plant them.
All right. Okay, my dear.
I'm going to have to spend the money, because the money is tight right now.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. And you, the second call you've made, so I'm sure you're seeing the revival of agriculture that I'm seeing as well.
I always enjoy cross and stop and looking.
But not just there. I think I drove in the New River area recently, and I'm amazed at what I'm seeing happening.
My son drive me all around to see where you do, because I want to know why he got to get up 5 o'clock a morning time.
Yes.
So he carry me one morning and show me all over.
And so I think we are seeing firsthand what is happening, and that is why, as I said, I commented that it was unfortunate that you have those who are still criticizing, because it's a time now for us to lend our encouragement. The politics is over, the election is over.
Exactly.
Right? So let us lend our encouragement to those who are working at the ministry and the department, and those actual farmers out there, because it's not easy work.
True.
But they are producing and they're responding. And in fact, we are now looking at what we can do in terms of even trying to extend some of the assistance to the farmers, because I like the trajectory in which we are on. I like the fact that the food production is now good, because it means that our people can afford to eat good food, produced locally, good quality. And I believe that those are important developments for us.
I drive across the Monday morning, really see with me to eye the amount of people out there looking seedlings and stuff.
Exactly.
Because, and I agree with the government to give them whatever little that they could help them and give them a start. So that's why I decided on give them a start with the banana trees and the seeds then.
But you know how much food you can get from just a tray of seedlings? A lot of food, you know?
True. That is true.
Yeah. You just get a tray of peppers and things.
I have a lot.
Okay. All right, my dear. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity as always. So you can go by Rodney's restaurant, and she says she's giving away some seeds for peppers and seasoning peppers, and she's giving away some banana shoots, the young shoots. You can get some of those as well. But she admonishes you, she's not giving all to one person. So go there and get some. She has papaya seed, she says, and also passion fruit. So the idea is that we encourage everybody. If you just have, 100 square feet of land in your backyard, you'll be amazed what you can do with it. And more people are going into that. It's also actually very relaxing as well. You do a little backyard gardening. It's good exercise. It relaxes you. And the beauty about it is when you're cooking, you say, Mary, run outside and bring a sweet pepper off the tree there for me. Tom, go down and pull up some herbs and bring them for me to put in the pot. And it is one of the things that we used to do and we had stopped doing, and now we're trying to start to do again. So COVID has not been all bad for us, because it has taught us some valuable lessons. If we take them to heart and continue to work, I believe that this little island of Nevis here can start to not only feed itself, but assist in feeding some of the neighboring islands as well. So let us continue in that vein. I think we are on a good path, and I want to encourage all the farmers, the hard-working folks at the Ministry and Department of Agriculture, and the Minister himself, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who is very enthusiastic. And I've said tonight, and I mean it, the best Minister of Agriculture we've had. He has done an excellent job, and the proof of the pudding is literally in the eating. And I think we are seeing that transformation in agriculture that we all can be proud of. It is quarter to the hour of 10 o'clock. We're taking some more calls. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Well, since the people are not calling and I have 15 minutes, then I have to talk some more. Well, I believe this show now should start to be 3 and 4 hours, because this little 2 hours of talking just ain't enough. You know, I mean, you want some talking that tires you out. But I'm here and I'm live and lively and have the energy of an Easter bunny. So I am continuing the debate and the dialogue and the discussion, and I have 15 minutes to do so. Well, controversy continues, because in St. Kitts we learned that there have been a slew of election petitions filed over there. We have the Labour Party, Dr. Denzel Douglas and his team. They have filed 6 election petitions. Somebody said to me today that Dr. Douglas and the Labour Party are saying that there was massive corruption in all the seats except the ones they won. So they won number 1 and number 6, and there was no problem with those elections. Everything there was rosy. But they lost the other 6, and there was massive corruption there. So that matter has gone to the court, and everybody is being challenged on St. Kitts in relation to that. And then I'm told that Ian Patches-Liebert, who lost in number 1, has also challenged that. So we have, in fact, the only seat in St. Kitts right now that is not before the court is number 6. Dr. Douglas himself. Only seat. Ninky Williams, the young candidate for PLP, is the only person who is not in court. We have Jeffrey is in court, Jeffrey Hanley. He is in court, sued by Patches-Liebert to overturn the result in number 1. We have Dr. Harris is in court, sued by Mr. Natta to overturn the election in number 7. We have Sean Richards is in court, sued by the youngster, what's his name? Kenny, I think. Kenny Douglas in number 5 to overturn the result. Lindsey Grant is in court, sued by Mr. Rensford to overturn the result in number 4. Akila Byron Nisbet is in court, sued by Young Conris to overturn the result in number 3. Jonel Powell is in court, sued by Marcel Liebert to overturn the result in number 2. And then who I left out? Eugene Hamilton is in court, sued by Dr. Drew to overturn the result in number 8. So in court you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. The only man in St. Kitts who's not in court is Denzel Douglas. And then on Nevis, number 9, 10, and 11 are not in court. Nobody has sued CCM. So it's some interesting times ahead in terms of this court actions and all the allegations that are being made. And the lawyers will have to figure it out. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, good evening. Politics done, so I'm not talk politics. You like mango? Agro-processing, selling mango pulp. So you can go out there, spend your money, don't beg them. Buy some mango pulp and go home, and you could grate some ginger with it and make a lovely shake, mango ginger drink. Or you could put mango with passion fruit. They got all kind of pulp out there that you can go and get. You can get the cassava meal, you could get it wet, you could get it dry. You could turn it to cassava meal musa, you could turn it into porridge, you could do anything. Anything you want, go on over there agriculture. The
agro-processing, yes. Mm-hmm.
And you go and get your mango pulp, and you don't have to ask somebody for a mango. You buy it, and you go home and you add it. You could add ginger, you could add lime, you could add passion fruit, anything you want to it. It gives you a lovely flavor, and then you don't got to eat no lunch. That don't keep you for lunchtime. Have a good one.
All right, thank you very much. Well, the amount of things you talk about agriculture tonight, like you're the spokeswoman of agriculture, I think they should put you on the payroll as the PR person, because you're calling every minute talking about agriculture. But I think you're right. There's a lot that's happening. But I wasn't talking politics, caller. You said get away from the politics. I am talking what is happening in the country. And what is happening in the country is that the only seats out of this election that are not before the court are 6, 9, 10, and 11. 4 seats. The other 7 are before the court being challenged. We don't know what the court is going to say, so it is a matter that is still topical and of interest to the people. But that, I think, is quite interesting. That is the first time we have seen so many election petitions after an election. The NRP in Nevis was wise. They know that they lost badly and they have not bothered to trouble the court and waste money. So they have gone go sit down, as I told them to do. So 9, 10, and 11 in Nevis safe. 6 in St. Kitts. Young Ninky Williams has not bothered Dr. Douglas. He said, you win the seat, go ahead. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8 have been challenged. And so who knows what's going to happen and how that's going to look. In the meantime, we let the lawyers do what they need to do, and we continue to observe and to look on as these matters wind their way through the court. Now, it's everybody's right to bring an election petition, of course. I myself brought one in 2011. Election petitions normally do not succeed. The percentage of them succeeding is quite slim. In fact, we made history in 2011 when that election petition succeeded in such spectacular fashion. A lot of people were playing the odds and saying that election petitions would normally fail. But the court there acted, declared the election in Nevis 2, St. John's, null and void, and sent us back to the polls. The then Premier decided to call an island-wide election, which he lost. And the consequence was that CCM ended up in office, elected by the people in 2013, and has continued in office since then. But that is the reality of the situation, that we now have. The politics is over in terms of the hustings and the argument on the political platform. That argument has now gone to the court. I myself have not seen the petitions, so I do not know what the allegations are. But certainly, when I get them, I will come here and dissect and discuss them as well, because I'm always interested, as that is part of the process that some people decide that they will do. But the seats that are not in contention, 6, 9, 10, and 11. All the others are before the court and are being challenged. So on one, Team Unity is challenging seat in number 1, and in the others, Labour is challenging all of the others. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes over the ensuing days and weeks, and how quickly the court will deal with those matters. And so that is where we are. We have about 6 minutes left. We can perhaps take 1 or 2 calls at 869-469-1616 and at 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers if you want to get in, even at this late hour, to the show and have your voice be recorded for posterity on this show, the 1st of July 2020. So we're here. We've looked at most and many things this evening. We've been talking about COVID. We've been talking about the recovery. We've been talking about the economy. We're talking about investment into Nevis, confidence that is being displayed by local investors as they put their money where their mouth is and they step up and come forward. I would want to finish, if you will, where I started, by sending that clarion call and by encouraging business community in St. Kitts. Nevis is open for business. Come and invest. The business community in Nevis, St. Kitts is open for business. Go and invest. The individuals who are thinking about it, small businesses, the young ladies and not so young ladies, the young men and not so young men, who have an idea. We have something in place where we've got $5 million through SIDU that we'll be making available to you. The maximum is $100,000. Go and talk to the good people there. They're doing some brilliant work at SIDU. I want to congratulate them publicly. Have a conversation. Find out from them how they can help you provide that seed money so that you can start your business. You have to start somewhere. Go there. You may be a little hair braiding business you want to do. You may have a special sauce that you want to develop, barbecue sauce or special. You hear Rodney, my friend, calling talk about mango and smoothie. You might want to do something. I see a fella there in Sinkits on the sidewalk in Sinkits with a smoothie cart, and every time I go past, he has a long line, and he's producing them right there. There are lots of little things that people can do to provide for themselves, and we are providing the seed money through that program to assist businesses that have a plan and that are viable. And so go and talk to SIDO. Sit down with the professionals there, let them advise you, let them guide you. Those are the things that we are trying to do to stimulate growth in small business, medium-sized business, even as we try to attract foreign investment as well. We're not saying that that is not important, but we're saying that the days of putting that at the expense of local business, those days are over. Our policy, new policy, brand new approach, is to encourage our own to invest and to give them the environment and the incentives that they need, that they can invest and move forward as well, so that the level playing field that we've been talking about is finally achieved. And so we encourage people to go out, invest, take the opportunity. The cabinet has started a conversation. I'm going to be coming back to you very soon, because there are different sectors that we've identified that we want to emphasize going forward post-COVID, and we will be providing some package of concessions geared to those sectors. And so listen out. We are a government that continues to think, continues to plan, and continues to come to the people with those plans and policies as we seek to move the island forward and to develop the obvious potential that we have here. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to continue to be engaged. This is your country. This is your country. Be engaged. Take advantage of the opportunities that are available. Take advantage of the opportunities and help build yourself and your families, your communities, and your country. That is what we must seek to do. And we must inspire each other to be the best that we can be. And in being the best that we can be, we are inspiring others who are coming after us to walk that same path, a path of excellence, a path of demonstrated ability, a path which says that we are proud to be Kittitians and Divisions, and we are proud to achieve and to excel and to put our country in the highest of heights, at the top of the class. You hear when Dr. Hull called in what he said? That other than Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis is the third highest in our region in terms of per capita income. You hear? Listen to that. Only Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago are ahead of us. We better than Brazil and Argentina and those big countries in terms of GDP per capita. These are important developments, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take them for granted. Praise be to God for the path that we have set our foot upon. Let us not detour from that path. Let us work and continue to work together to achieve higher and higher heights. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have said that I want the St. Kitts and Nevis passport to become the most powerful in the region. Currently, we are at second place behind Barbados. And I've sent the clarion call out to the team of ambassadors and high commissioners. I've said to them, we need the #1 spot. It's a goal that I have set out for the country to achieve. And I've said, let's work towards it, because it can be achieved. That is what we're seeking to do. To continually punch above our weight and to demonstrate through our actions that we are small in size perhaps, but imbued with greatness, and that we have a spirit that if we unleash it, nothing can stop the progress of this small country. With God's grace and God's blessings, we will achieve and we will continue to achieve. That then brings us to the 10 o'clock hour. The band is going to strike up in a minute, and it will mean we have to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being a part of this show tonight. I want to thank those who called. I want to thank those who listened, and I hope that we would have said something that is of interest to you. And if you didn't hear this show tonight, you can listen tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Von Radio. And some people tell me that it's so nice that they listen twice. Good night to all. Have a pleasant night. May God bless you and keep you. And we look forward to being back here with you next week, if it's God's will. We look forward certainly to continuing this show and this rich tradition of dialogue that we have started some 14 years ago and that we continue even now to engage in. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the